All right, inshallah, we'll go ahead and start. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Inshallah, everyone's doing well. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to go ahead and move on and continue on with our series. So this series probably is going to last like another, I would say, probably another 5 sessions, inshallah. We'll see it through probably the middle of August or towards the tail end of it. And then, inshallah, we're going to start a new series. So the series that we usually do, they last about 2 to 3 months, alhamdulillah. So we're kind of right on track for that. We began this series about 5 weeks ago. So it was kind of like the, kind of mid-June-ish, beginning of June-ish time. So we're going to see it through to the end of August. And so, inshallah, we'll kind of go ahead and move on after the series is over. But there's a few really powerful kind of sessions that I wanted to kind of share with everybody before we obviously wrap up this series. And, when you're kind of doing a series on the reality of giants, right, from our tradition and their stories, it's really hard. One of the biggest challenges is to basically choose who you want to kind of highlight. Because you could really, subhanAllah, if you sit and you read people's stories, and you turn page after page, there are so many moments in everyone's stories that are so special. And the hardest job is to kind of like figure out which ones do we kind of highlight for certain, conversations, because they're all so beautiful. But alhamdulillah, I think there are certain things that just stand out. And so today's conversation, inshallah, is going to be one of those standout conversations. And so the conversation we're going to have today, and if you guys have kind of generally caught the gist of the series, every single Thursday, what we're doing is we're taking people's stories and we're taking one element that made their story like super thematically unique, okay? Salman al-Farisi was a story of like the young man who was trying to find his kind of place of belonging, right? Khadija was the first person to believe in the Prophet. Like, her story was about loyalty. The story of Ka'b ibn Malik from last Thursday was the story about repenting and forgiveness and the idea of making a personal relationship with Allah and kind of zoning out other people sometimes, right? The stories of people like Umar ibn al-Khattab, his story was never ever judging a book by its cover, right? So everyone's stories were so unique because they have a very, very unique theme tied to their entire personality that we can take so much benefit from. Today, we're going to be talking about a person who literally, subhanAllah, we don't say this lightly, but when Allah reveals Quran about you, it's either going to be incredible or incredibly terrible. Meaning that like you will be like cemented in legend of human history, or you will be like a person like a person like Abu Lahab, who Allah revealed an entire story about his demise and how he was ruined. And so today we have the blessing and the honor of speaking about a woman who, subhanAllah, and I think I'm going to preface this by saying something. A lot of times we do a lot of injustice by saying that if a person's a man or a woman, the only person or the group of people that can relate to that narrative is a person that is a man or a woman, right? So like if you are a person who's talking about Fatima radiallahu anha, the Prophet's daughter, like a grave injustice is to say that only women can follow in her footsteps. That would actually be kind of antithetical to the prophetic sunnah, right? Like if we truly believe that the Prophet ﷺ, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, that if he is an example for all of humanity, then clearly it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you are able to relate to the humanity within this person, right? Of course, there is benefit to relating to people on different levels, right? There's a benefit to relating to the Prophet ﷺ on the level of a father or a husband, right? There's a level of relating to Aisha as a wife, as a sister. Those are kind of deeper layers of the onion that you can peel back. But the principle is always going to be on a humanity level, right? The trying to reach humanity is always the goal of a Muslim, is that you're trying to be a human being, right? Allow yourself to be a human being. Allow yourself to feel like a human being. And this is the reality of a lot of these kind of stories of sacrifice. And so Today we're going to kind of speak about this woman by the name of Maryam, right? Some of y'all's namesake, right? So if you're named Maryam in here, you know, like, subhanAllah, your name most likely came from this incredible human being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this dunya. And you know what's really interesting? A lot of times, and this is particular to Quran, which is that Allah will only reveal the portions of their story that matter to you, okay? Like Maryam lived a beautiful life. She lived a life like that was extensive, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her over a period of time. But from what we know of from the surahs in the Quran, it's only like 14, 12, 13 verses. So for a person that reads it, they're like, well, what about the rest of their story, right? Because we're used to the stories like, we're talking, me and brother Mushfi in the back, we're talking about like Harry Potter, right? We're like, wow, 7 books, 8 movies, like, every small detail. Oh, what they do over the summer, right? Like, but the Quran, what Islam does, it kind of reduces it, it condenses it to something of a need to know basis. So like when you need to know about something, it's there for you. And that's why the Quran, by the way, is never going to be described. A lot of people mistranslate the Quran as a book that has stories, right? It's a story book. It's not a story book because stories sometimes have what you call fluff, right? Like I'm sure everyone's read a good story or a good book or watched a really good movie where you could easily cut out a scene. You're like, that scene's not really that important. It doesn't really do much for the narrative, doesn't do much for the plot. Like I could easily nix it and it would still be the same exact movie and the same exact book at the end of the day. The Quran is not like that, where if you read the Quran, even if there is a letter or a word, it's there for a reason, right? And if it's not there, it means you don't need to know about it. And there's wisdom in not needing to know about something. Because sometimes we want to know about things that don't really benefit us, right? Like, I wonder what that person ate for dinner that night. It's really bothering me, right? And that's where like all like the deep fan lore websites come from and like people start making up their own stories about this and that. We don't have that in the Quran. Why? Because the Quran is going to give you whatever it needs to give you. And for a person who appreciates Allah, they understand that if Allah told me about something, Allah meant for me to know about it. And if Allah didn't tell me about something, then I'm not meant to know about it right now, right? All of this goes back to this idea that I trust Allah. I trust Allah. And there sometimes is benefit into me not knowing this right now. And you have to trust the process, right? And so Maryam's story is a lot about this. And Allah begins the story with this particular verse in number 16 in her own surah called Surah Al-Maryam, where Allah says, وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمَ إِذْ أَنْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا. Allah begins her story in a very unique way. He says, mention the story of this woman by the name of Maryam. Now, a lot of people ask, like, well, what was her childhood like? Well, I'll give you a glimpse of her childhood. This girl, this woman, subhanAllah, she came from like a really pious family. And so for a lot of us, everyone's like, oh, mashallah, mashallah, right? But there's a lot of pressure, by the way. And I can guarantee everyone in here feels this. If you come from like a very practicing family, of course, from the get-go, you're like, wow, mashallah, amazing, right? But are there not also realistic social implications of coming from a religious family? Of course there are, right? Like you always feel like you're catching up, right? I'll never be as religious as my mom. I'll never be as religious as my dad. I'm always like the kind of the black sheep in the family. Like I can never do anything right. Everyone judges me, right? There's all these social pressures that come from being a part of a family that's so immensely great. And Maryam alayhi salam, she came from this type of family, right? Her father was a man by the name of Imran. He was a very beloved person. People loved him, okay? And Maryam alayhi salam, may Allah be pleased with her, she was this young person growing up. And subhanAllah, one of the things that you'll always learn about Maryam and her story is not only in Surah Maryam, but it's also in Surah Al-Imran. One thing you'll find out about her in her life is that she used to always value one thing very much. And you can take this with you, which is she always loved her time alone. She loved her time alone. And she didn't feel the need to constantly like be around people all the time. In fact, one of the greatest challenges that she went through that we're going to talk about today came at the hands of the perception of other people around her. So her own kind of solitude was where she found Allah. And again, we find as Muslims benefit to both situations where you're able to find Allah in crowds, but you're also able to find Allah in solitude. A Muslim must be able to do both of them. Because if you can only find Allah in crowds, that means that when you're by yourself, you're going to struggle spiritually, right? But the opposite's also true, that if you can only find Allah in solitude, then you'll have the hardest time going to things like this, right? And you'll never be able to come out and be with other people and benefit with other people and go to a Jummah on Friday and enjoy the Ramadan experience. A believer is supposed to be able to do both of them because Allah will be found in both settings. Your relationship with Allah will be in both settings. They'll just be a little bit different. When you're by yourself, you might be able to cry more. When you're by yourself in your solitude, you might be able to be more emotional. When you're around other people, something's really interesting, by the way, and I had this kind of epiphany, when I went to Hajj this year, which was, when I make dua when I'm by myself, I tend to make dua more for personal things for me. But then when I went to Hajj and I was doing tawaf around the Kaaba, I always began to be reminded that my du'as are important for me, yes, but I also have to make dua for the people around me, my family, my friends, the people that I love, because I see people around me. So sometimes Allah puts you in certain settings even for like worship benefit. Allah reminds you through gatherings that you're not the only person here. And you need to be considerate of other people, make dua for other people. That's how you do things, right? So there's benefit to both settings, okay? So Maryam, there was narrations that mentioned that Maryam, she used to have this kind of private worship place that one of her family members, his name was Zakaria. He basically made this beautiful little mihrab for her. Zakaria alayhi salam, by the way, was a prophet of Allah. And he made this beautiful little mihrab for her, like this private worship room for her. And he would find her in there, and she would just be kind of like super locked in. Her du'as. Can you guys imagine like an 8-year-old kid locked into their du'as? Like, what are you making du'a for? Like extra go-gurt? I don't understand. Like, people are fascinated by it. Like, what are you crying to God for, right? And I'll tell you, subhanAllah, something that's kind of powerful from that particular lesson is one of the worst things that you can do is think that other people's du'as or other people's life stages are less significant than yours. And I'm sure everyone in here at some point has kind of witnessed that type of situation where like somebody looks at you and they're like, what problems do you have? Like this like ruddy college student, man. Like what's your hardships, right? Like, have you paid bills yet? Have you been married yet? Like, that doesn't matter because everyone's circumstances are particular to their situation at that moment, right? Like if you're 21 and going through like the most difficult semester of your college career, that is grandiose. And that is it's a huge hurdle for you. Who's to say that that is not as challenging for you as it is for a person who just got married and is trying to figure out their life as a married person? Like everyone's situation is different. It's not up to us to be like, well, one is better than the other, one is more difficult than the other. Allah puts everyone in certain situations because that's the situation you're supposed to be in at that moment, right? I'm sure you guys have heard the narratives like people tell you like, oh, well, just wait till you get married, like life's gonna get real hard then, right? And then that person then tells you, wait till you have kids, life's gonna get real hard then. Like everyone just thinks that their new kind of, unlocked level of life is like the most difficult thing that anyone's ever been through. But the reality is like, take the steps. Appreciate the stages. We joke around a lot about marriage, like, oh, married this and marriage that. But I actually think that we should do like Islamic classes about the virtues of being single. I know it sounds weird, but follow me here. Because if everyone is like, oh, well, I'm like this dirtbag that has nothing going on in my life because I'm not married yet. Like, wasn't the Prophet single until he got married? Weren't certain pious people single until they got married in the past? Like, what did they do up until then? Did they just consider themselves like these lowly people that just didn't achieve something that was so lofty and high? No, they appreciated the stage that they were in. And it'll always be shooting ourselves in the foot if we think that, well, that's the ultimate goal in life. And once that's over, I'm done, I'm accomplished. Of course, marriage is a blessing. Having children is a blessing. Getting older and maturing and growing in your wisdom is a blessing. But it doesn't mean to downplay the stage of life that you're in right now. And so Maryam's story in this surah begins with this, where Allah tells the Prophet ﷺ, وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ Maryam. Now remember in the book of Allah the story of Maryam. He says, إِذْ أَنْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا. She withdrew from her family to a place to the east. Meaning that she basically kind of like, she began to have these kind of feelings in her heart where she wanted to be a little bit away from people. And powerful, by the way, kind of common denominator you'll find here is whenever there was a person who was close to Allah that felt that they needed to become even closer to Allah, you would always find that they go somewhere away from people sometimes. The Prophet, where did he go? He went to that famous cave, right? Cave of Hira, right? The mountain of light, Jabal al-Nur. That's where he went. Musa alayhi salam was drawn to Mount Sinai. He was drawn to Janib al-Tur, the side of the mountain, and that's where Allah spoke to him, right? Yunus alayhi salam, as weird as it sounds, Yunus was swallowed by a whale. That's what Allah did to get him away from people. So Allah finds his way to kind of bring his beloved to these places where they can be one-on-one with him. And in those moments is where you truly kind of discover your love for God, because you're able to zone away from your phone. You're able to put away your notifications. You're able to put your phone on like do not disturb. You're able to get away from the laptop and the TV. You're able to get away from the friend groups. You're able to kind of just like lock in with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that he used to do with his own messengers and the people that he loved. And so here it says that she withdrew from her family. She even took a break from her family, which, by the way, proves to you that it's okay. You don't have to feel like a terrible son or a terrible daughter if you need a break from your family once in a while. It's healthy. It's healthy. And anyone, I'll tell you what, whenever you take healthy breaks, it's always good for your relationships, by the way. You begin to appreciate people more, right? People who are constantly with each other 24/7, what do they start to do? They start to just go insane. Why? Because they notice every small little, like, small pet peeve. You're like, why do you chew like that? You're like, what? Wallahi, if you can notice the way that someone chews, you spent way too much time with them. Take a break. Go away, okay? Like, the way that person breathes bothers you all of a sudden. Take a break, okay? It's proof that you need to kind of just get away from them a little bit, right? Get away, get some healthy space. Renew that love that you have for them. Because when you're away from them, the natural progression is that you'll begin to fall in love again. You'll begin to miss them. You'll begin to say like, oh man, I miss my mom. I haven't seen her I haven't seen her all day. I need to go home and I need to go sit with her. But the issue is that if you're with your mom from the moment you wake up from breakfast and then you see her at lunch and then you see her at dinner, I don't doubt that 8 billion arguments came out. Like, I don't doubt that you guys talked about 40 different topics in one day and then yelled at each other about 20 of those different topics. Like, I can guarantee those things happened. Why? Because you're constantly with each other. And this is the reality of even friends. Don't constantly be with your friends like all the time. Have some healthy boundaries, right? The text, the chat will be alive. It'll be okay. You're not going to dead the chat because you went absent for like 3 hours. You'll be just fine. But when you do have that conversation with them again, inshallah, it's going to be very fruitful and very, very blessed. So Maryam, she withdrew from her family for a little while. And it says, فَاتَّخَذَتْ مِن دُونِهِمْ حِجَابًا. And she secluded herself away from them, and she put between them مِن دُونِهِمْ حِجَابًا. And she kind of like put a little bit of like a barrier between them. Meaning that like she kind of like went ghost mode for a little bit. She went ghost mode. She turned her phone on Do Not Disturb. And the word hijab, by the way, before it became known as the form of physical veil that we kind of call it today, the word hijab literally means to veil yourself, to put between yourself a barrier, a protective agent between you and something else so that you feel protected, you feel closer to Allah, right? Like a hijab could also be like a particular, like a curtain you put yourself behind when you're praying, because you don't want to disturb yourself in your prayer. That could also be considered a hijab, because that's something that you want to make the intention of being close to Allah with, okay? So she put between herself and she secluded herself, min dunihim hijab, فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا. And Allah says that we sent to her our angel, ruhana. The ruh, by the way, of Allah is angel Gabriel. The ruh that you hear about in the Quran, when it comes to like Allah sent the ruh, it means angel Gabriel. So Allah then sends this angel when she's in seclusion. Check this out. Just like the Prophet ﷺ, When the Prophet was in the seclusion of the Ghar Hira, of the cave of Hira, Allah sent angel Jibril. And the Prophet didn't know who he was. The Prophet was like, I'm by myself. Who's this guy, right? Telling me to read. The same deal happens with Maryam. So Allah sends his angel, Gabriel, and he goes to her, and he says, فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا, that he came to her in the form of a beautiful man, a beautiful person. So Angel Gabriel alayhi salam, by the way, the angels can take forms of different things. And the majority of times, the angels will take form of beautiful people. When Angel Gabriel ever came to the Prophet ﷺ, he always came in the form of a beautiful person. Some of the narrations say that Angel Gabriel, when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he came in the form of a man who was extremely well kept. He had like jet black straight hair and like a very, very like beautifully thick beard. And he was tall and he was always wearing clean clothes, like dressed to the nine. That's what Angel Gabriel looked like in human form. So the same type of like kind of appearance came to Maryam alayhi salam. Okay, now check her response. She goes, قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك. She sees Angel Gabriel. By the way, she has no idea who this is. She just sees like a man who is, mashallah, very well kept in front of her. And she goes, I seek Allah's protection from you. So she's like, so she straight up says, oh Allah, protect me from this guy. Okay? In kunta taqiyya. And she goes, don't you dare take a step closer to me if you fear God. Like this is how like strong of a person she is. Like she's not gonna just like hide in the corner and like wait for someone to save her. She goes, hey you, big tall man, if you fear God, stay away from me. Okay, she's saying this to an angel, by the way. An angel of Allah. This is not some random person. She alludes to God consciousness and she immediately calls for help from Allah. By the way, a beautiful tradition whenever you feel like you're caught in a tough moment. If you're ever caught in a tough moment, automatically say, A'udhu billah. Say, A'udhu billah. I seek Allah's a'adha. I seek Allah's help. Why? Because that proves that the first thing you think of when you're in a tight spot is, the first person that's going to get me out of this is Allah. Before I even trust my own faculties. And they're, by the way, they're not separate from one another. You can say, A'udhu billah, and also do your own kind of effort, your own due diligence. Okay? Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, when the woman who was named Zulaykha, when she basically shut the door and she tried to seduce him, he said, Qala ma'adh Allah. I seek Allah's help. And then he ran to the door and tried to open it. So it's not like making dua and then doing your own human ability is like two separate things. You can do both the same things at one time. You can call out to Allah and you can also do something that's in your own human capability. You don't have to separate those two things. You can say Bismillah and drive safely. Some of y'all don't believe this. You just make your dua before you get into the car and you say Bismillah and then you ask for protection from everyone around you, right? And then you just drive. And you're like, Allah will take care of me. No, you're going 95, relax, right? Like you can't make dua and then just like endanger everyone's life on George Bush Turnpike. That's not how it works. Make dua, ask Allah to protect you, and then drive safely, okay? They call it like tie your camel, right? Make sure you tie your camel. Dua and dhikr should never be misunderstood for, oh, Allah will take care of me no matter what I do. No. Allah will take care of you, but Allah has also given you your own faculties, right? It's actually, it's almost like religious negligence to think that I can just make dua and then just kind of completely just let loose and do whatever I want, even if those decisions are very, very bad decisions, right? And then people, adversely, they get mad at Allah when they don't get what they want. They're like, oh, Allah, like, why? Why did that happen? Well, you didn't study. Yeah, I get it. You prayed Fajr. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and accept from you praying Fajr, but you didn't study. You can't expect like a bailout. We don't believe in like relying on miracles. Miracles come to people who work hard and then trust Allah. Those are the people that miracles come to. When you look at any story of anybody who's pious in our tradition, Musa alayhi salam, Allah split the Red Sea after what? After Musa did the hard work of grabbing all of the people from Bani Israel and walking to the Red Sea himself. Then Allah split the sea. That's Allah's sunnah. Allah's sunnah is not just to bail somebody out when they're laying in bed. You got to get up, do some work, Make that dua, try your hardest, and then Allah will help you. That's Allah's tradition, right? So she says to this man, Inni a'udhu birrahmani minka in kunta taqiyya. So you should fear God. Don't take a step closer to me. I'm asking Allah for protection from you. And then this angel responds back and he says, Qala innama ana rasulu rabbik. I am a messenger from your Lord. He says, Li ahaba laki ghulaman zakiya. I'm coming to you to announce to you the gift of a beautiful child. The gift of a beautiful son. And at this moment, wallahi, I'm going to tell you guys something. I know a lot of times we kind of like fast forward through some of these stories because we're like, oh yeah, Maryam, she's the one that had the miraculous child, Prophet Isa. She didn't have any sort of, relationship with a man, so it was a miracle. But I want you to humanize the story for 1 minute. Maryam, at this stage, majority of the ulama say that she was a teenager. She was in the middle of her teenage years, 15. If you want to do like the median of it, 15. Imagine if someone comes to you and be like, congratulations on your kid. And you're like, what? Like, what auntie? Like, what auntie spread this rumor, right? Like, you're confused. This angel goes up to her and she says, Allah has blessed you. Mubarak, congratulations. Allah has blessed you with this beautiful ghulam, Zakiya, a pure child. Maryam goes, like, imagine like the skipping of the heartbeat at that moment. Like first order of operation, like you must have the wrong person, right? Like, no, not me. Like I'm 15, like I'm doing my homework. I got to go to Spanish tomorrow morning. Like you must have the wrong person in your little like, whatever call sheet that you got. It's not me. And then she said to him, قالت, she says, أَنَّ يَكُونُ لِي غُلَامٌ وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. She says, how can I have a son when I've never even had a relationship with a person? She goes, I've never had a relationship with a person. And she says, وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. And I have never been unchaste. Meaning like I've never been immodest. I've never had a physical relationship with a man. How is that possible? That's impossible. That's not possible for me. And Jibreel alayhi salam, he says, قَالَ كَذَلِكَ قَالَ رَبُّكِ هُوَ عَلَيَّ حَيِّنٌ. He says, this is what Allah says, and it is easy for me. And we will make him, your son, a sign to all people and a blessing from us. وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. And he will be a blessing from us, and it has become a matter. وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. You know what that means, by the way? I'll define that word for you guys. وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. It means that it is done. It's a done deal. You don't have a say in it. Like Allah has decreed it. The word maqdiya comes from the word qada, which means the decree of God. And it's already been decreed for you. Can you imagine this? Like imagine, I'm going to kind of bring it down to our level a little bit. Imagine someone comes to you and they're like, hey, so you're going to marry Haris and he's like, 27 years old from this part of the world and congratulations, you're in nikah tomorrow. And you're like, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You start like reciting Quran all of a sudden. Like brothers, like same for you, right? Like, hey, guess what? You're getting married in like 1 week. Her name is Amina. She's actually from Pakistan. She's never been to America before. And you're like, what? Like you're scared. You're like, what on earth are you talking about? This is terrifying. How on earth could this happen? Like, how? How do I believe in this? And Jibreel goes, وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. It's done. Like, I'll give you guys like a moment of humanity here. Isn't it so difficult to hear that it's already been done and you have no say in it? Isn't that one of the hardest human nafsi situations to be in? Some of us are control freaks, okay? I'm not going to point out who. I know some of y'all, but inshallah. Some of us, we have this hard time of like letting things go because we like to plan every little kind of minute detail of our lives, right? From like when we wake up until when we go to sleep and where we're going to go eat and where we're going to go hang out, where we're going to get coffee from, where we're going to get our matcha from. Like we try to kind of like plan that down to the detail of it. And some of us, when like that plan goes awry, we lose our minds. We're like, oh my God, my favorite matcha place is out of matcha. What do I do now? Like, is Angel Jibreel going to come down to me tomorrow? Like, like we start panicking. Is the day of judgment in 1 week? Like, I don't know. What do we do here, right? There's a matcha shortage, guys. So like we're losing our brains because something happened that we didn't plan for. And at that moment, subhanallah, the the question for a person who claims La ilaha illallah is, can you let go? Can you let go? And that's a big question. Are you able to just let go of the situation and say, you know what? Okay. As scary as the situation is, as terrified as I am, I'm going to see what Allah has planned for me. Right? Because sometimes in your life, you will have to do that. You will not be able to control every element of your life. There will be certain things where you will not have a say in it. And those are small little kind of like test runs from Allah to see if you're ready for like a really big moment in your life. Those small little moments. So don't think that small moments in your life are like insignificant. Those are like trial runs from Allah to you to see if you can overall accomplish the A on that big exam. Because Allah will never test somebody out of nowhere, like this huge lofty test. Allah will give you small little hurdles to pass over. The speed bump, before you get to that massive speed bump where you're actually going to like kind of be moved by it physically, Allah will give you small speed bumps on the road to see if you can slow down to those speed bumps. But if you're going through those speed bumps at like 80 miles per hour, the minute that you hit that massive one, it's going to feel like you just got shook in your life. Because you didn't slow down on the other ones. You just went right through them. You went right over them. So the test is to see if you can take those smaller signs from Allah and slow down a little bit and trust the process. So that when it comes time for Allah to give you that big test, you're able to say, Tawakkaltu ala Allah. I trust Him. Because I trusted Him in those smaller moments. So if I trusted Allah in those smaller moments, this big moment in my life, I fully trust Him. Okay? So at this moment, Angel Gabriel says that it's a done deal. And so Allah, He says here, so it was ordained. وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا فَحَمَلَتْهُ فَانْتَبَذَتْ بِهِ مَكَانًا قَضِيًّا. And she literally conceived. She became pregnant. She was carrying a child in her womb. And He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَكَانًا قَضِيًّا. She went to a far away place. Okay? Has anyone ever been through like a health circumstance where like the last thing that you wanted to see is a human being? Like you wanted to be completely by yourself, right? In this story, right, when Maryam alayhi salam, she begins to kind of go through the more physical evidences of pregnancy, one of the things that she just naturally wanted to do is just get away from people, right? She wanted to get away from like everyone. She wanted to kind of go away from everyone, and she wanted to be by herself because even like seeing someone is going to kind of like test her. And like, you know, by the way, it's really good to be able to assess that. If you're going through like a situation in your life where you feel like, hey, it might be better for me to be away from people instead of being with people and then having like a shortage of my temper and my patience, then it's okay to take some time and be away from people for that moment, right? So she goes away from people. She kind of secludes herself. And at this moment, it says here, فَأَجَاءَهَا الْمَخَاضُ إِلَى جِدْعِ النَّخْلَةِ. She went to, or the pains of pregnancy drove her to cling the trunk of this date palm tree. Like I want you guys to imagine this, like picture this. She basically was in so much pain that the pain of her situation drove her to cling onto the trunk, like the stalk of a date palm tree. How many people have ever seen a date palm tree in your life? They're not small. Like they're very, very big trees. So she's going and she's like hugging this tree because she's in so much pain. Okay? قالت. And she says, by the way, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful line. قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. This reveals Maryam's humanity right here. She goes and she cries. She cries. She exclaims to Allah. She says, Ya laytani. She goes, Mittu qabla hadha. I wish I had been dead. Wa kuntu nasiyan mansiya. And I wish that I was forgotten. She goes, I wish that like I could erase myself right now. Like I don't even want to be alive right now. Like the difficulty of my pregnancy. I wish I could just erase this entire thing. You know, subhanAllah, I'll share with you something powerful from this line. This right here, by the way, this line, the highlighted line right here, it proves that being a human being is not haram. People have this like religious guilt. They're like, oh, but if I'm going through difficulty and I cry out to Allah and tell him that this thing is very difficult for me to go through, like, is it haram? Like, is Allah gonna be mad at me if I tell him how bad this situation is? No. You can tell Allah anything, but the important part of that line is telling Allah, not always telling other people. Because sometimes other people will not understand you. But look at Maryam, she's saying this, she's crying this to God. She was a very devout, pious woman. So when she's crying out, I wish I had been dead and forgotten long before this, she's not saying that to a human being, she's saying this to God. It's permissible because she's going through something difficult. She's not challenging Allah. She's not saying, oh Allah, why'd you put me through this? She's not saying, oh Allah, why'd you do this to me? She's saying, oh Allah, this is tough. This is hard. This is difficult. Like if you were to ask me what I wanted, I would tell you, Allah, I wish I was never born. She's saying that to Allah. So when you think about like journaling to Allah, like journaling your du'as, journaling your feelings towards Allah, like don't think that like journaling your emotions to Allah is anytime haram. No. The only time it becomes ill etiquette of you is to ever question Allah directly. To say, God, why did you do this? You never accuse Allah. That is bila adab. That is absence of etiquette towards God. But to express, oh Allah, I'm going through this. I feel like crying every day. Allah, I feel like I'm empty. Allah, I feel like I'm going through the worst like curse of all time. Like call out to Allah and say those things. Because it's only Allah that will get you out of it. So she goes through this immense moment. And it says here that a voice called out to her. فَنَادَاهَا مِن تَحْتِهَا. A voice called out from underneath her. The word تَحْتِهَا, it means underneath her. She heard something from underneath her. And the voice said to Maryam, لَا تَحْزَنِي قَدْ جَعَلَ رَبُّكِ تَحْتَكِ سَرِيًّا. It said, don't worry, O Maryam. Your Lord has provided a stream at your feet. Allah has given you a stream at your feet. Like there's water underneath you. Like cool your feet off a little bit. Like just be, like find that stream to be a relief from Allah. And then he says, وَحُزِّ إِلَيْكِ بِجِدْعِ النَّخْلَةِ. He says, and if you shake the trunk of this date palm tree towards you, تُسَاقِطْ عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَانِيًّا. He says, it will deliver fresh, ripe dates for you. So she, there was a very amazing point that was made by one of my favorite teachers ever. He goes, if you want to know the strength of a pregnant woman, I don't know how many people have ever tried to shake the palm of a tree. It's like impossible. Like a tree, like a date palm tree, if you shake a date palm tree, you're not going to move it 1 millimeter. It's not going to happen. But Allah goes, oh Maryam, shake the date palm tree and fruits will come off from it for you. And she did it and fruits fell. So point being, she was crazy strong. Okay? Like she was pregnant strong. So Allah tells her, shake the date palm tree and fruits will come down for you. Again, what does it prove? It proves that you got to do a little bit of work. You got to do a little bit of work. Can you imagine? Couldn't Maryam alayhi salam have said, oh Allah, I'm already going through so much. Don't tell me to do anything more. Don't tell me to do anything more. Don't ask me for another thing. Like relieve me, Allah. That's what she's asking for. And Allah is telling her, Maryam, shake the date palm tree. Isn't that another task to do with your physical strength? That's another thing to do. That's another thing you have to add to your list now. But look at how Allah works. Allah, in order for you to have a miracle, Allah tells you, even if you feel like you're at your max, do one more. You know when you go to the gym, one more rep, when you think you're about to max out on that bench press or that squat, you're about to go like you can't do it anymore. And most people, subhanAllah, people who are like super like gym rats, like they love going to the gym, they'll tell you, I'll do one more. I'll do one more. Why? For the gains, akhi, right? Like, I'll do it. They'll tell you, like, I'll do one more because that's what we want for the dunya. But when it comes to doing one more for Allah, we're like, I don't know if I can. Oh, man, it's too much. Oh God, I can't. One more dua, man, I'm maxed out. When we were walking, subhanAllah, it's a funny story. When we were doing our walk between Safa and Marwa during our Hajj, I remember I had like my microphone with me, like it was a little kind of like a compact mic, and like my entire group had like headphones that they were listening to me on. And you go back and forth from Safa to Marwa, by the way, 7 times, okay? It's not a short distance. It's a decent walk. Like Safa to Marwa, it takes you about like probably around like 12 to 14, 13 minutes to go all the way across and then back. So if you do it 7 times, like it'll take you a minute. It'll take you like over like an hour, hour and 20 minutes. It'll take you a while. So the entire time while you're going back and forth, what are we supposed to be doing? Dua, 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 right? And if you've ever been to Umrah before, you know that there's a moment when you're doing your Umrah where you're like running out of du'as. You're like, what else do I ask Allah for? Like, I don't know. I maxed out. Like, I asked Allah for, you know, good for my parents, myself, my family, my future kids. I don't even know who they are. Like, I did everything. There's no more that I could ask for. And I tell people, subhanAllah, when I was on that microphone during Hajj, I told everybody, I said, guys, I know that we're on our 6th run from Safa to Marwa, or Marwa back to Safa. I need you to dig deep right now. Dig deep. Don't sell yourself short. By the way, a lot of people will discover a new part of themselves when they dig one level deeper. I'm telling you they will. Anybody in here ever like run or like go to like do like an intense workout where like you like hit like a level of like a second wind? You know when you hit a second wind, you're like, how on earth is this possible? Like, I just ate biryani before this. Like, I thought I was going to max out after 10 minutes of running. Like, how is this possible? Well, if you push yourself to a certain degree, you'll find a part of yourself that you never even knew that you had. I'll guarantee it. If you push yourself hard enough, you will discover something about yourself even you didn't know. Guaranteeing it. And this applies to any part of your life. It applies to your academics. It applies to deen. It applies to career and work. It applies to like what you thought you could do in terms of your abilities. I'm telling you, if you push yourself a little bit, because a lot of times, subhanAllah, we are actually our biggest restraints. Like we have this can't do mentality. We're like, no, I can't do that. No, it's not me. Like it's never meant for me. I can't do it. But if you just kind of like push yourself a little bit, subhanAllah, you know, my wife and I are like currently we're thinking about like doing like swim lessons for our daughter. And like me being like the scared dad that I am, I'm like, no, I don't know. What if something happens to her? I was shown a video of like a baby, like a 4 or 5 month old baby. And you know, like I didn't know this because like Muslims are inherently afraid of swimming, but like I didn't realize people like that are just kind of like, and again, like I guess I just didn't know. People who have children, sometimes like the most earliest like swim lessons you can do for like you can put your kid in is at like 4 or 5 months. And you know what they do? They just like throw their child into a pool and they just let that kid naturally swim up. And like the swim instructor will tell the parent like, stop, don't try to hurt him. Like don't try to bail him out. Like he'll do it. She can do it. It's natural, it's within them. You don't think they can do it, but they can do it, right? And subhanAllah, you'll see in those videos, like those 5-month-olds, they for some reason, somehow Allah allows them to do it. They swim their little legs up to the surface of the water. And it's like a miracle. And you think to yourself, you're like, wow, how'd that happen? It's because sometimes we doubt ourselves. We doubt our own God-given abilities. We think to ourselves like, yeah, I don't know, like I can't really read more Quran than like 1 page. Guarantee it. You read 1 page and like 2 lines, you'll start to read 2 pages in like a few days. You'll start to pray a little bit more. You're like, yeah, I'm more of like a fard type of person. I don't really pray my sunnahs because I just can't do it. No, pray 1 sunnah. Trust me, pray 1 sunnah. You'll be addicted to it. I'm telling you. It'll happen. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. When Allah tells Maryam alayhi salam to shake the stalk of this date palm tree, she doesn't ever say, no, I can't do it, Allah. I can't do it. She hears Allah's command and she goes to the tree and she shakes it and fruits come down. And at this point Allah says, فَكُلِي وَاشْرَبِي. So eat and drink and be happy, be glad. And say to anyone that sees you that I have vowed to Allah to abstain from conversation, and I'm not going to talk to anybody. So Allah goes, oh Maryam, if anybody comes to bother you about like your pregnancy or like the state that you're in, don't entertain those conversations. Tell them that I can't talk to you right now. I can't talk to you right now. I'm focused on my task, okay? And so it says, فَآتَتْ بِهِ قَوْمَهَا تَحْمِلُهُ. When she went back to her community, and تَحْمِلُهُ, she was carrying a child. She was carrying a child. Some people have a different opinion whether Isa was already born or whether she was like in the latter stages of her pregnancy. تَحْمِلُهُ قَالُوا يَا مَرْيَمْ لَقَدْ جِئْتِ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. They look at Maryam, they're like, oh my God, Maryam, what did you do? Subhanallah. Think about like the modern day relevancy of this ayah. Maryam goes back to her people, and the first thing they say to her is what? Maryam, how could you? Literally, that's the first response they give her. They don't talk to her. They don't sit down with her. They don't ask her if she needs anything. What do they say? Maryam, how did you do that? What a terrible thing you've done. They automatically assume. They assume the worst. We talked about this last week, by the way. This idea of seeing someone and automatically, before even talking to them, assuming their situation. Like you see a brother walk in with like a yellow fizzy drink, and you're like, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, alcohol. I knew it. When that guy was like drinking butterbeer, he's a Harry Potter nerd. I don't know, like, you see a sister walk in with a guy, and you're like, haram alayk. How could you? I knew she had a boyfriend. When, if you just asked her, you knew that that was her brother. Like, easily. All you had to do is have a conversation. All you had to do is have one moment of humanity. But what do? We look from afar and we're like, God's watching, right? Like, no, actually, you're not letting Allah do his job. You're trying to do the job. You're out here putting like a haram police siren on your car, and you're going around to all the communities and saying, let me see where I can find binoculars, haram binoculars, right? Like, you're going around everywhere trying to figure things out. By the way, guys, we do this all the time without even realizing it. Like, I'm talking about like the active judgment through like speech, but think about your own mentality sometimes. We look at something and we're like, oh my God, that's terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like we think so cryptically about our community. And this is what Maryam had to deal with. They saw her and they said, Ya Maryam, laqad ji'ti shay'an fariya. Oh my God, Maryam, how terrible of a thing that you've done. They had no idea about Jibreel alayhi salam coming to her. They had no idea about Jibreel telling her, oh Maryam, you're going to have a miraculous child without even having a relationship. They had no idea about Allah telling her to shake the trunk of a date palm tree and having this miraculous child who's going to be a prophet. They didn't even ask her about any of that. They automatically assumed that what? You did something terrible. But what did Allah say? Look at the verse previously. What did Allah command her to do? Allah said, oh Maryam, tell everybody that you're not going to talk to them and respond to them. I'll tell you guys something, subhanAllah. Sometimes ridiculous accusations are actually not even worth entertaining. I'll tell you something. I made a mistake. I'll be vulnerable here. Dang, this is live stream, so this guy's going to clip it for sure. All right. I found out last night that there was a brother, believe it or not, there was a brother who made a video about me. And he basically was like, what an embarrassment. He's teaching women and men close together. Like, he went in. He was like, anybody in the comments who knows who this brother is, and he tagged me on my Instagram, by the way, after it's over. I'll give you guys a guess what continent he's from. Allah bless those people from that beautiful place. We freed ourselves from them in the 1700s. So he like made this entire 2-minute video, right? And for me, like my nafs was like, dude, clap back. Get that guy, right? And I was so tempted. And I reached out to some of my colleagues and some of my teachers, like, guys, what do I do? Right? Like, I have to do something about this. I can't, like my nafs is telling me I gotta do something. And I caved in. I did comment back on that video, but wallah, the comment was so, when someone like kills you with kindness, like there's no way to hate this guy. I was like, wallahi, brother, Habibi, it was so amazing to hear from you. May Allah reward you for your sincerity. If you'd like to have a private conversation with me, please reach out to me. My doors are open at any time, right? Catch a trip, inshallah, over to America, we'll talk. And so one of my colleagues, one of my peers, he goes, oh, you shouldn't have even entertained it. Because like the speech was so ridiculous, it's not even worth your like recognition. It's not even worth you like recognizing it as something real because it's so foolish, right? And so subhanAllah, like in a moment of humanity, I really, and subhanAllah, like literally the day after, I'm teaching about this right now, which is that subhanAllah, sometimes, right, the best way to kind of just like defend is just by staying silent and letting Allah do his thing. There are certain moments where, yes, if it's a more like kind of crucial situation and you have to like go out there and clear your name and, you know, clear any sort of false accusation, yes, you do have the right to do that. By the way, Islamically, you do. But Allah will always teach us that don't make that your burden to carry constantly. Because people will constantly say things about you. Don't make it your life goal to rebuttal everything someone says about you. Don't make it your life goal to constantly try to go back and combat and refute everything someone says about you. You will never be able to do that. Let Allah do it. So Allah tells Maryam, don't talk to these people. And they even go further. They say, Ya ukhta Harun, O sister of Harun. They say, Ma kana abuki. He says, Ma kana abuki amra'an saw'in. وَمَا كَانَتْ أُمُّكِ بَغِيَّةً. Your father was a good person and your mother was so modest. What did you turn up to be like? Think about like the harsh stuff they're saying to her. That's daggers, right? They're saying, oh, Maryam, your dad was a good person. Your mom was a modest woman. How did you turn out like that? I'm telling you guys, I want you guys to think about something in your life. Think about a time in your life where you had to bite your tongue, literally. Someone said something to you that was so provoking, that was so just terrible, that you could have at that moment ended that person's existence. You could have just ended it right there, but you had to bite your tongue. You had to hold back. Why? For the greater picture. For the greater picture. You didn't want to play into that person's ridiculousness. You had to just sit there and just say, okay. Because guess what? Certain people, I'll tell you guys right now, certain people, they will believe what they want to believe no matter what people say. Look at the Prophet ﷺ, by the way. The Prophet ﷺ preached truth to his community in Mecca for a decade. And these people saw everything. And yet they still said, you're a liar, you're a poet, you're a magician, you're this, you're that. So don't think that like you're always going to be the person who changes people's minds. It's not possible. Your job is, I trust Allah. I trust Allah to take care of the situation. Okay? And so what she does, فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ قَالُوا كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي مَهْدِ صَبِيًّا. He says, she points to her kid. She points to this child, Prophet Isa. And they said to her, how are we going to, what do you mean? Like he's going to defend you? And at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the miracle of Isa. And so we'll end with this particular ayah, inshaAllah, and then draw some lessons. At that moment, in the quiet silence of his mother, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he speaks for her. He says, Inni abdullahi atani al-kitaba wa ja'alani nabiyya. He says for his own mother, I am a servant of Allah. He says, Inni Abdullah. I'm a servant of God. Atani al-kitab. He has granted me a message. Wa ja'alani nabiyya. And he's granted me prophethood. Maryam stayed quiet so her people could see the miracle of Allah next to her. Sometimes, and I'm going to end with this inshallah. Sometimes we have to not get in the way of allowing people to learn from Allah. I know this is a little bit of like a kind of big kind of claim that I'm making here, but sometimes we ourselves get in the way of other people's spiritual growth. Like we think we have to do all of the work. We think that we have to like take this person and convince them that this is true and that's true and God is this and God is that. When in reality, all we have to do is stay humble, trust Allah, and get out the way. You're not always going to be the person that holds people's hands and forces them to Islam. It's not going to happen. I have had conversations with people who say, like, there are people in my family, they still don't believe in Allah. They don't pray. They don't do this. They don't do that, and this and that, all that stuff. And I tell them, are you helping them, or actually are you hindering them? You as a son, or you as a daughter, you as a brother or a sister or a cousin or a friend, are you helping them, or are you hindering their growth? Because sometimes always like giving lectures and reminding people this and teaching them that is sometimes stunting that process. Sometimes the greatest way to allow people to find Allah is by playing the role that you play for that person. Be a son, be a daughter, be a brother, be a sister. I've had conversations, by the way, here in this very space. People are saying like, oh, my brother, he doesn't believe in Allah, he doesn't believe in God, he doesn't believe in anything, he doesn't pray. Like, what do I do to help him? And you know my answer constantly? Be the best sister to him. Be the best sister you can be. You're not his murshid. Like, you're not his guide. You are his sister. And the same goes for brothers. If you have like a sister or like a cousin or whatever, or another brother in your house, don't think that your goal is to be that person's guide. Be the best brother that you can possibly be. And when that person finds Allah, I'm telling you right now, when that person finds Allah, they will remember you as a sweet chapter of their journey. Because everybody has a different religious journey. You, go back to your own life, in your own archives. Go back 2 years, 1 year, 2 months ago. Maybe you had no relationship with Allah 4 or 5 months ago. And maybe recently, alhamdulillah, you found this love for Allah. Remember how you would have loved to be treated at that moment by a family member. You wouldn't want to be lectured. You wouldn't want to be talked down to. You would just want to be treated nicely and kindly by your father, by your mother, by your sister, by your brother. That's what you would have wanted. So be that for another person. Don't be the hindrance. Sometimes make dua for them and wish well for them. Take them out to a nice meal, pay for their coffee, and just let Allah do what He does. And the best type of da'wah, I will tell you guys right now, the best type of da'wah, before we ever choose to open our mouths, the best type of da'wah will always be the da'wah that you do through your mannerisms. I'm telling you. People convert to Islam because that person took them to a meal. People convert to Islam because that person one time bought them a gift during a time of difficulty. People are drawn to Islam because that person sat with them and was a shoulder to lean on while they were crying. That's why people convert to Islam. The whole like street da'wah, like, akhi, let me tell you why Jesus isn't God, like type of thing. Like, those are like the videos that you see on Instagram Reels and TikTok. Like that's not transferable in real life very many times. It doesn't work like that. Trust me, take it from a person who's been in this field for a very long time. The people who are drawn to Allah are the people who say, yeah, I remember my neighbor one time in Ramadan dropped off a meal for me at the time of sunset. And I grew curious. Why? And I learned about Ramadan. And I learned about Eid. Then I learned about Jum'ah. Then I learned about prayer. But it all started with somebody dropping off some pulao. Someone dropping off some, malakhiya. Someone dropping off some sort of food for me. And that just piqued my curiosity. But it all began with a generous gesture of humanity. That's what it is. That's the greatest form of da'wah. So when Maryam, subhanAllah, when we look at her story, right, and we think about sacrifice, I want you guys to take 3 things away. Number one is that her example teaches us you sometimes need to be by yourself to truly connect with Allah at a level that you've never been able to connect with Him before. Give yourself that space. Give yourself that solitude. Give yourself that time to think and to be with Allah. That's number 1. Number 2 is understand that you will always have to do a little bit of work in order for the miracle to come. Allah will ask you, shake the stalk of that date palm tree, and you'll see the fruits come down. Allah will tell you, take your staff and hit the ground with it, and the sea will part itself. Allah will say, make dua, and the whale will literally cast you out. Allah will say, make dua, call out to Allah, and Allah will make that fire cool for you. But there's always a condition to the miracle. Miracles do not come to people that don't work hard for them. Okay, that's number 2. And number 3 is, when it comes time to having to face people, don't always think that you have to make yourself be the spokesperson the entire time. Your trust in Allah is also commensurate with how much you're willing to let Allah do what He does and not get in the way. Do your work hard, have faith in Allah, and don't get in the way all the time. Allah will allow truth to come out for you. Allah will allow justice to take place for you. It will happen because Allah knows that you trusted in Him. That is how we can look at Maryam alayhi salam, inshallah. Okay? So we're going to pause there, inshallah, for today. And we'll continue on, inshallah, next week. What I'm going to do, inshallah, is I'm going to go ahead and open up the Slido account, inshallah, for all of us, and we'll be able to do a Q&A because we didn't get to do Q&A last week. So we'll do Q&A for 10 minutes, and then we'll break for Maghrib prayer, inshallah ta'ala. So I'll give everyone a little bit of time to scan the QR code and ask your questions, inshallah. Okay? All right, let me just really quickly, 1 second. Okay. I'll give everybody a little bit of time to go ahead, inshallah, and submit some questions, and we'll do some rapid fire rounds of answering, inshallah, some of these questions together. Okay. Okay, let's get to some of these questions, inshallah. I'm just going to start approving them. All right. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and start answering some of these questions. So somebody says, what should I do if I feel that life has no purpose? So, subhanAllah, I think that the reality of a person having some sort of like purpose and direction in their life is dependent upon them being able to kind of sit and be patient and wait for certain doors to open up for them. So I don't want everyone to think to themselves that like life has to look the exact same for me as the person next to me. That's not always the case. When we start comparing and contrasting like goals and objectives and purposes of life, that's when we start to kind of fall into this endless pit of like, just kind of like, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing, or I don't know what direction I'm going in. So number one, my first advice to you would be to make sure that you're not comparing your purpose in life to anybody else's purpose in life, okay? Because Allah has given everyone their own unique purpose in life. Yes, we all communally believe in a purpose of life being that we worship Allah and our goal is to get to paradise. But at the same time, the way that Allah allows us to see that through is going to be different for each person, right? So don't think that the avenue to get to that conclusion has to be the same for every single person, okay? So my goal is for this person particularly, don't compare and contrast and think that, you have to always see everyone else's life as a goal and as a vision for you as well. Find your own niche and your own journey and your own route, inshallah. Okay? Somebody says, how does one differentiate loving the rituals and community that comes with Islam versus actually loving Allah? So, good question. the way that you find differentiation between the two is that you understand that you actually love Allah if you are able to worship Allah in every scenario. If you can worship Allah in every scenario and you can worship Allah in different settings, that's when you know that you love Allah and not just the setting. Okay? Like if I can only pray when I'm around people, that means that there's something within me that is not really fully developed yet in terms of my spirituality. If my spirituality is maturing and developing, that means that I don't. It's like a family member, right? Like or a friend who can claim that they really love a friend if they only like to hang out with them in group settings. And when you're one-on-one with them, you're like, so, what do you like to do, right? Like this is awkward. That friendship's not really mature yet, right? That means that it's still at like the kind of like the foundational phases. Nothing wrong with that, but the goal is to always grow it, right? So the way you can differentiate is if you can have that genuine relationship with Allah, regardless of whatever setting that it is in, okay? And it's okay to feel different in like Ramadan and when you're praying in Jama'ah because those are communal movements. But at the same time, your prayer should not be absent if it's by yourself, okay? Very, very good question. All right. Let's see. Why is a Muslim man allowed to marry a woman of the book, but a Muslim woman can only marry a Muslim man? Very good question. So this question has a lot to do with the idea of like fiqh and family situations because, and I'll tell you something honestly, nowadays there are certain things that were default placed in Sharia because they were given as defaults to rulings and defaults to circumstances in the time in which it was revealed in, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and also to set a type of trajectory that establishes normalcy in a family unit. The reality is, in terms of family, right, a lot of times the idea of marriage is not just for the couple, the idea of marriage is what? وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. It is to establish progeny, it's to establish family, it's to establish a future, وَذُرِّيَّتِ, it's to establish children and establish offsprings, right? And the reality of a lot of family social kind of just norm is that a lot of children and a lot of financial implications ride upon the reality of the father and the reality of what he provides for the family because Islamically, he is responsible for doing so, right? Not saying that the woman cannot provide. Of course the woman can provide. The woman can do whatever she wishes, but it is the responsibility by default of the father. So because of this, the reality of a Muslim woman marrying a Muslim man and a Muslim man having the ability, if absolutely necessary, to marry a woman of the book exists, okay? But I will say something here. In today's day and age, I will say right now, it is very, very unwise to do so for a Muslim man to marry a woman of the book. I'll be very honest with you guys. Why? Because Islam, in terms of our tradition now, in today's day and age, is not the same in terms of our social circumstances as it was 1,400 years ago. 1,500 years ago, if there was a Christian woman who believed in La ilaha illallah, essentially she was one step away from being a Muslim. The only thing that she didn't fulfill was Muhammad Rasulullah at that time. But every other thing lined up. Now, the issue is if there is a Christian woman who is married to a Muslim man, there are multiple elements and tenets that are very, very problematic. And it affects kids. I personally, by the way, I'm telling you guys honestly right now, I have seen it happen with my own eyes of Muslim men marrying non-Muslim women. And I have seen, and it's not even like my own kind of like observation, it is proven by empirical data that those children have a much more difficult time finding some sort of religious identity. They have such a tough time. And it's so hard for them because they have no idea what to do. They have no direction because there's a lot of ambivalence and a lot of agnosticism in the environment that they live in. It's very difficult to establish a tradition and such. This is why that particular ruling exists. And if you have further questions, inshallah, about that, then we can talk about that in private as well, inshallah. Somebody says, what do I do to find love for Allah even if I want it? If you want it, the next step is to put steps into your intention to make it a reality, right? If I claim that I love going to the gym, I don't really love going to the gym if I actually don't make a plan in my day to siphon off like, you know, an hour of Monday through Friday to actually make time to go there, right? If I claim to love my siblings, I can't follow through with that claim as being honest if I don't message them at least once a day to see how they're doing. The claim must be backed up with an action that is reflective of that claim. So if I want to love Allah, I have to now follow that claim up with things that prove that I love Allah, because talk at the end of the day is cheap, right? Talk at the end of the day is cheap. Intentions are only half of it. What did we talk about last week with Ka'b ibn Malik? The other half of intention is the follow through. So the follow through must exist at the same intensity as the intention itself. Very, very good. What should I do if I struggle with going to sleep early and waking up on time for Fajr? If waking up with an alarm doesn't help you, what I would strongly suggest is rely on other people to wake you up. And you know what that does, by the way? That also helps you pray in Jama'at, which is really amazing, right? That you're not praying by yourself. If you feel like you have like a weakness of like kind of giving in if you're praying by yourself, have somebody pray with you. Have somebody wake you up and pray with you. That at least holds like a dunyawi level of accountability for you, where now I'm praying, but I'm also praying with this person, so I get the reward of praying in Jama'at, and at the same time, I have this level of accountability with this person who's going to wake me up. Alhamdulillah. Good. All right. How does one differentiate loving? Okay, so I answered that already. Let me approve a few more, because we have a lot coming in right now. Okay. And you can thumbs up these as well if you wish, inshallah, if these questions are relevant to you. How long was the duration of Maryam alayhi salam's pregnancy? It was shorter than the average pregnancy because of the miraculous nature of the pregnancy itself. So we don't know by definitive nature exactly how long it was, but we can assume that it was shorter than the average pregnancy, the term of a normal pregnancy for a person. Okay. Not related to the topic, what does alif lam mim mean? Alif lam mim are basically what in Arabic you would call the disjointed letters, huruf muqatta'at, which basically means that they are disjointed. The scholars, they say that they do have meaning. We are not meant to know the meaning of those letters because we don't believe that anything in the Quran is meaningless. Okay? So even if Allah gives us alif lam mim or kaf ha ya ain sad or alif lam ra or ya sin ta ha, all of these letters have meanings. We just do not know about what those meanings particularly are. Okay? All right, let's see. A married friend gave me pics of her and her ex and to hold on to for 2 years, from 2 years ago. Now she misses and wants to see the pics. I feel like I'm helping her betray. Yeah, subhanAllah, this is really tough. What I would share with you personally is be a good friend to her and tell her sincerely that like, and not even religiously, because I don't want you to think that like religious answers are always like the number one primary go-to response. Always share out of genuine care that it is not healthy for you to do something like this. It's not healthy for you to go back. It's like almost like it's like a really bad like relapse of a substance. It's not good for you. Not good for you, and it's also not good for the person. Can you change the name of the talk? First time I came here, I thought there would be free soul food. Wallahi, you actually passed the Muslim test so well. Like, where's the KKC? I don't know. Inshallah, one day we'll get it. Soul food. The idea of soul food is that it's food for the soul, not food for your stomach. Wallahi, you guys are cooked. Okay. I feel guilty. I feel guilty leaving my family behind if I get married, and makes me want to push it away, even though I'm at the stage of wanting to look. Wow, subhanallah. This is this is a very kind of powerful and very emotionally aware kind of statement. If you have this kind of hesitancy of getting married because you fear that you're ending kind of like a particular role in your own family, one thing I'll share is this. Allah will never replace something in your life that is good for you with something in your life that is worse for you, okay? So if a marriage is healthy for you, I'll tell you what it will do. Yes, will there be a portion of your life that kind of technically ends? Like for me, when I got married a little bit younger, so I remember like the last kind of like few months of me living in my mom and my dad's house, and I thought to myself like, wow, I'm never going to be a kid again in this house. It's weird. It's a weird thought, right? Like I'm not gonna wake up in my own room in my parents' house and go open the pantry and see what's cooking, right? Like it's never gonna be that anymore. But I'll tell you what, subhanAllah, if you make a move in your life that allows you to progress and you have Allah's blessings in that decision, Allah will actually unlock another level of relationship for you and your family that you never had before. I'll tell you honestly, like my relationship with my parents is actually healthier and better since I got married. Because Allah does not replace something that's good for you with something that's bad. He will always upgrade you to the next level, right? So don't take it as like, oh, I'm leaving my parents or I'm leaving my family. You're literally fulfilling something that you have that's important in your life, and it will also help you actually improve and mature in the current relationships that you have in your life as well. And it'll also help you appreciate what you have, right? Not seeing your family every single day is going to make you really appreciate who they were in your life, right? Very, very powerful. My mom and uncle have passed away, and we are raising to build a masjid in their name. Okay, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and bless your efforts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this to be a form of sadaqah jariyah. If anybody wants to take a picture, I'm going to see if I can just kind of maybe just copy it right here, and then I'll link it inshallah in the Soul Food chat as well. Okay, let's do a few more inshallah before we stop for Maghrib. I'm confused on how much say my parents have over me. Am I allowed to make my own decisions as long as I remain respectful to them? Can I get a motorcycle? I love you left that for the end. You're like, example, not for me, for a friend. So when it comes to your parents, there's a reason in the Quran it always says وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, not أَطِيعُوا, because that means to obey. Okay? Now, is being excellent to your parents obeying them in manners where they are telling you something that's good for you? Of course it is, right? But what I will say to you is that there are certain battles that are not worth fighting, okay? If you really want a motorcycle and you're like 21 years old, I guarantee you that in like 3 years when you have your own spot, you can get like 8 of them if you want to. But for the sake of the heart of your mother, it actually just might be the best decision to put that purchase on hold for now, right? Because it's not worth fighting that battle right now. There are certain things that seem very large when we're standing in front of it, but when we zoom out a little bit and you're like, wait a second, like, okay, I could have waited for that just a little bit. Now, like a motorcycle, for me, I don't know about you, it's not like a life or death situation in terms of like, is this gonna make or break me as a person? There are a lot of other things in your conversations with your parents that you can disagree upon that will actually have very substantial like outcomes in your own personal life. Save some of those conversations for those moments, right? Pick and choose your battles. So yes, although it is okay to disagree with your parents on a lot of dunyawi things, there are certain things that are just not worth the argumentation and worth the battle. So be very wise on the way that you pick and choose what you feel are like non-negotiables versus what you think are things that you really just want, right? Very, very good questions. We'll do a couple more inshallah. How do I get remotivated for prayer? I can't get myself to pray and then feel guilty after, but change seems to change it. I'm trying to figure out the last statement, but basically I think what you're trying to say is that how do I motivate myself? And the second question right here is very kind of similar. How do I deal with laziness and not praying? I'll tell you what, prayer is one of those things that you will be rewarded for with how much you struggle with it. I'm not going to sit right here and tell you guys that like every prayer that you're going to pray is going to be some sort of spiritually profound experience for you that's going to be like miraculous. The reality is prayer is much more of an obedience towards Allah than something that makes you feel good every single time you do it. But I'll tell you what, if you get into the habit of obeying Allah, you will find some of your salawat being life-changing miraculous moments. Okay? The miraculous prayers don't work for people who pray once in a blue moon. The miraculous prayers happen for people who pray every day, and they go through 5-6 prayers where they're just kind of grinding through it and obeying Allah, but then that random Maghrib prayer just hits them differently in their heart. That is what the miracle feels like, inshallah. Okay, so we'll pause with that, okay, because we have a lot more, and inshallah, we'll get to these, inshallah, next Thursday. We have a really awesome program this weekend, by the way, guys. If you haven't seen it, it is, inshallah, going to be our summer night session on Saturday evening, late night. It's going to be myself and Qadi Nu'man. We'll be here, inshallah. It'll be like a talk show format style program. And the topic is going to be dealing with spiritual anxiety. So if you feel like you want to join us, inshallah, dealing with spiritual guilt, dealing with the hardships of feeling, you're letting Allah down, anything like that, inshallah, is going to be this coming Saturday evening after Isha at Qalam, inshallah. So it'll be at 10 p.m. on Saturday evening, late night moves, inshallah. We'll see you guys there, hopefully. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, also, if you haven't signed up for the retreat in August, that's all you as well, inshallah. Okay, so the college retreat is live right now. You guys can look at the screen, inshallah. It's at this URL slug. You're more than welcome to, inshallah, sign up for it. We'd love to see you guys there, inshallah, next month. Assalamu alaikum, y'all.